Have you ever locked eyes with someone, even for a heartbeat, and suddenly felt like time itself took a breath? Everything around you dimmed. The sound of traffic, the weight of your thoughts, even the tension in your shoulders, it all just paused. And in that fraction of a second, something passed between you and them. Something unspoken but unmistakably real. It didn't need language. It didn't need a touch. It was simply presence. Moments like that aren't coincidence. They're not illusions, either. They're signals, quiet, electric, undeniable. And yet, most of us are trained to look away. We dismiss what we feel, rationalize it away, or worse, convince ourselves we imagined it. Because modern life teaches us to ignore instinct, to prioritize logic, to drown in noise. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What if, in a moment of stillness, your eyes revealed the color of your soul? And what if theirs did too? That's what this video is about. We live in a world that speaks too much but listens too little. But in the silence between words, in a gaze held just a second too long, is where truth often hides. Eye contact isn't just about looking, it's about seeing. It's a bridge between two inner worlds. A mirror, not just of attraction, but of recognition. That's why it can rattle you, move you, even haunt you. Because in someone's eyes, you don't just see them, you feel seen. Today, we're going to explore 4 powerful ways eye contact reveals someone likes you. Not in superficial glances or cheesy tricks, but in the subtle, raw, and deeply human signs most people overlook. These aren't just signals. They're truths your intuition has always known. You've just never had the words to name them. Whether you're navigating love, connection, or simply want to understand the language your body already speaks fluently, this is for you. The man or woman who's tired of second-guessing what they feel, who longs for clarity instead of confusion, and who's ready to step into their own emotional power with calm, with strength, with wisdom. So if these words stir something in you, if you've ever felt that flicker of electricity in a look, that soft pull that says, "Pay attention," then leave a comment. Share a moment. Your story might be the spark someone else needs to feel a little less alone today. Now, take a deep breath. Let's begin with number 1. 4 eye signs that show someone likes you. Sign 1. The gaze that stays too long. There's a kind of eye contact that doesn't flinch. It doesn't dart away like most do in passing. It holds, lingers, not in a way that feels aggressive or staged, but in a way that feels present. As if, for that moment, the other person isn't just looking at you. They're with you, entirely. And that kind of look, it changes the air between you. Prolonged eye contact isn't just about visual focus. It's about attention, the kind you rarely get in a world glued to screens, distracted by noise, and flooded with superficial interaction. It's rare, and it's real. When someone looks at you longer than necessary, not because they're unsure, but because something in them feels drawn to stay, that's not a coincidence. That's not politeness. That's resonance. That's attraction testing the waters of vulnerability. It's easy to overlook this, especially if you've been conditioned to doubt your worth. If you've been taught that unless someone says it directly, it isn't real. But the body has a language of its own, and the eyes speak it fluently. They speak of curiosity, intrigue, recognition. And when the eyes hold longer than expected, it's often the first confession that the heart hasn't found words for yet. Science backs this up too. A 2006 study published in the Journal of Research and Personality showed that when 2 strangers held mutual eye contact for just 2 minutes, they reported significantly higher levels of attraction, even when no words were exchanged. Why? Because prolonged eye contact bypasses small talk and dives into something deeper, presence. It says, "I see you. I'm not rushing. I'm not looking for the next thing. I'm here." And that stillness, that choice to stay, it shakes people. In a world that constantly pulls us in every direction, someone choosing to remain with you in silence is no small thing. But here's the key. Not all prolonged eye contact means desire. Some people stare blankly out of habit or as a challenge. That's not what we're talking about. You can feel the difference between a look that observes and a look that feels. One is cold and searching. The other is soft, alive, almost electric. You'll know the difference when it happens, because you'll feel it before you can explain it. It won't hit your brain first, it'll land in your chest. And when it does, don't look away too fast. Don't break the moment out of fear, Because sometimes a single glance held just 1 second longer than needed says more than 100 spoken words. As Epictetus once said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And perhaps we also have 2 eyes and 1 heart for the same reason. To see not just clearly, but consciously. To recognize when someone else's silence is trying to speak. And to have the calm courage to hold that space. Because sometimes that look, the one that doesn't flinch, isn't a question. It's an answer. Sign 2. The glance that tries not to be seen. A woman's eyes meet yours, just for a breath, and then disappear. It's so quick, it almost feels accidental. But something about it lingers. The moment hangs in the air, weightless but unforgettable. She wasn't just scanning the room. She saw you. And more than that, she felt something. These are the moments that don't announce themselves. They slip between heartbeats, tucked into the quiet of a room full of noise. But they're charged, alive with nervous curiosity and restrained emotion. She looks again and again, but always looks away the second she thinks you've noticed. It's not rejection, it's retreat. This pattern, drawn in, then pulling away, is more than a nervous tick. In psychology, it's known as approach avoidance conflict. The heart leans forward, the mind pulls back. When attraction is strong, but vulnerability feels too exposed, the eyes flicker like a flame, trying not to burn too bright. She's not being coy. She's trying to manage the emotional risk of being seen. Often, the glance that vanishes is louder than the one that lingers. It carries the trembling edge of someone who didn't mean to look but couldn't help it. And in that quick shift of gaze, she's saying, I noticed you, and I wasn't ready for you to notice me back. It's tempting to brush it off. Or worse, to chase it, make a joke, confront her, try to turn it into something concrete. But when you react too fast, you kill the mystery. You rob both of you of the tension that's trying to bloom. The Stoics understood the wisdom of restraint. As Marcus Aurelius said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. The same is true here. The glance wasn't awkward. It only becomes so when you overvalue your need for clarity. Strength is knowing how to stay still in moments that beg for reaction. The man who doesn't chase approval, who doesn't need to be told what he already senses, he becomes unforgettable. When you hold your presence while she wrestles with her own, you give her something rare, space without pressure, attention without expectation. And even if she never looks again in that moment, something shifts. She remembers how you didn't make her retreat feel like a mistake, how you didn't try to pull emotion out of her when she wasn't ready. That kind of restraint is felt more deeply than flirtation. It's felt in the chest, in the quiet. So when her eyes flick to yours and vanish just as quickly, don't dismiss it. And don't rush to catch it. Let her glance come and go like wind over still water. Because what matters isn't how fast you respond, but how deeply you see. Sign 3. When the eyes brighten before the heart speaks. You don't always need words or gestures to know when someone is drawn to you. Sometimes, all it takes is the way their eyes seem to light up the second they see you. How their gaze sharpens, softens, or simply lingers in a way that feels a little too alive to be neutral. It's subtle, often invisible to the untrained eye. But once you've felt it, it's impossible to forget. The human body can hide many things, but not this. Pupil dilation is one of the few things we cannot consciously control. It's the body's reflex to emotional arousal, to excitement, fear, attraction. When someone is captivated, their pupils expand, their eyes widen slightly, and the whites of their eyes seem to contrast more with the color. They don't even realize it's happening, but you'll feel it. Their whole face shifts, and their eyes begin to reflect something far more vulnerable, their focus. A groundbreaking study from the 1970s, published in Science, revealed something fascinating. Male participants were shown pictures of women whose pupils had been subtly edited, some dilated, others not. Time and time again, they found the women with larger pupils more attractive, even though they couldn't consciously explain why. That's the power of our subconscious picking up what our minds miss. This doesn't just happen in photos. It happens in life. You walk into a room, and someone's eyes seem to flicker with energy as they see you. Not out of surprise, not out of politeness, but because something inside them stirred. You won't always catch the dilation itself, unless you're close, but the energy behind it is unmistakable. Their eyes blink more, their face softens, their gaze feels warmer. And for a moment, you feel like the only person in the room they actually see. Epictetus once wrote, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad." That truth applies here too. Many miss these signs not because they lack perception, but because they don't believe someone could genuinely be looking at them that way. So they look away. They shrink. They assume they misread it. But the body rarely lies. What we feel when someone's eyes light up isn't fantasy. It's biology, and it deserves attention. The real challenge is being grounded enough to receive it without ego. To notice her eyes change, not with entitlement, but with appreciation. Not with the hunger to act, but with the strength to remain still. You're not trying to turn a moment into a conquest. You're simply honoring that moment for what it is, a crack in the mask, a signal of connection. Because when someone's pupils respond to your presence, when their eyes brighten in a room full of noise, you're not being invited to chase. You're being invited to see. Quietly, respectfully, deeply. And if you can hold that awareness without breaking the spell, you've already shown a power most people never learn to carry. Sign 4. Eye contact with microexpressions. Not every emotion arrives with a parade. Some slip quietly through the smallest cracks, barely a flicker, barely a breath, and yet they say everything. You don't need her to speak. You only need to see what her eyes say in between the silences. These are the microexpressions, those involuntary shifts in her face that betray what she's feeling before she can hide it. A slight upward curl at the corner of her mouth, a brief flash of raised eyebrows, a tightening at the corners of her eyes. Not forced, not rehearsed. Real, honest, fleeting. When she looks at you, and just for half a second, you catch that glint, like something inside her lit up against her will. You've just witnessed the truth before words could cover it. Most people miss these signs because they're watching the conversation. But attraction doesn't always live in the sentences. It lives in the spaces between them, in the sigh before a word, in the way her face relaxes when she sees you walk in the way she looks and then, without meaning to, smiles, even before she knows she has. Seneca once said, "You want to live? Then you must see." And seeing, truly seeing, requires presence. When someone likes you, their body may speak long before their mouth gives permission. Microexpressions aren't just signs of attraction. They're signs of a mind losing the battle against what the heart is already feeling. She might glance up at you, and in that glance, her lips part slightly, not seductively, but unconsciously, as if her thoughts were interrupted. Her face may flush faintly. She may blink faster. Her eyes soften, then dart away. These are not scripted performances. They are the fingerprints of vulnerability. The challenge is in your stillness. If you react too quickly, laugh it off, rush to speak, mirror it out of nervousness, you miss the gift. You turn something genuine into something performative. But if you can stay rooted, see her, but not rush her, those expressions multiply. She begins to feel seen, but not judged. And that is rare. The most powerful connection often begins before either person is ready to name it. The eyes and face betray a storm that hasn't yet reached the lips. The man who sees that, without reaching for it, without needing to define it, is the man who commands attention without asking for it. You don't need to catch every twitch, every blush. But notice the overall rhythm. Notice how she is around you, not just what she says. And if her face lights up when you look at her, even if just for a second, that's not something you need to question. That's something you need to respect. Because in a world full of people saying too much and feeling too little, her face may reveal something she hasn't told even herself yet. And when it does, your job isn't to exploit it, it's to understand it, to hold it, to meet it with stillness, not strategy. Number 2, not every look means love when the eyes say nothing at all. Not every glance carries meaning. Not every look is a message waiting to be decoded. And sometimes, the hardest lesson is learning to tell the difference between a connection and a coincidence. The human brain is wired to find patterns. We seek meaning in silence, connection in noise. And when we long to be seen, truly seen, we sometimes read signals that were never there. A polite glance, a passing smile, a moment of shared eye contact in a crowded room. It feels like something. But is it? The truth is, the way people use eye contact varies. An extrovert might hold your gaze confidently, not because they're drawn to you, but because that's how they move through the world: open, curious, socially fluent. An introvert, on the other hand, might struggle to meet your eyes even if they're deeply attracted to you. They guard their energy. They connect more slowly. Their eyes may dart away not out of disinterest, but out of fear that you might see too much. Attachment styles play their part, too. The secure gaze is steady, comfortably held, naturally shared. But the anxious will stare too long or avoid entirely, unsure of how much they're allowed to want. And the avoidant? Well, they look away not because they don't care, but because caring makes them feel too vulnerable to handle. Seneca once said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." That applies here. When we expect a look to mean something specific, when we demand it to, we stop living in what's real and start chasing what we hope to see. Sometimes a look is just a look, a moment of curiosity, a fleeting thought, a habit. The difference lies in the context, in what follows. Does she look again? Does her body language soften? Is there consistency, or was it just a single, neutral moment? We make the mistake of isolating a glance like it's a confession, when in truth, eye contact is a conversation. It's the rhythm between her gaze and yours, between her energy and your stillness. And when you try to force clarity out of a single, standalone look, you miss the truth that lives in the repetition. Don't let need cloud perception. Needing her gaze to mean something makes you blind to what it actually means. Instead, be curious. Stay grounded. Let the pattern reveal itself over time. If there's warmth, it'll show again. If there's a spark, it'll flicker more than once. And if not, that's okay. Not everyone will see you. Not everyone needs to. The Stoic path isn't about chasing connection. It's about being whole without it. When someone looks at you, ask yourself, do they look at everyone this way? Does their gaze land, or just pass through? Are they seeing you, or simply looking in your direction? You'll know the difference. Not in your head, but in your gut. Because the eyes may be silent, but they are rarely ever wrong. Number 3, how to respond when you notice the signs. When you feel it, you just know. Her gaze lingers, soft but intentional. There's an energy, a quiet invitation, even if she doesn't say a word. And in that space, between her look and your reaction, you stand at a quiet crossroads, to rush toward it, or to breathe and simply be. Most people respond too quickly. They smile nervously, look away, force a joke to break the tension, or rush into conversation trying to make something happen. But that's not where connection lives. That's where connection goes to die. Because the power was never in what you did. It was in how you received what already was. When someone reveals themselves, even in a fleeting glance, they are offering a thread of vulnerability. And how you respond says everything about who you are. The grounded man doesn't chase it. He holds it with grace, with calm, with presence. Start by holding her gaze, not as a tactic, but as truth. If it makes you uncomfortable, good. Sit with that. You're not here to perform. You're here to feel. Let her see that you're not flinching, not faking confidence, not trying to prove anything. You're just here, with her, in the moment. Smile gently, not the kind that seeks approval, but the kind that comes from genuine awareness. You saw her, you see yourself, and you're at peace. Sometimes you lean in slightly. Sometimes you stay exactly where you are. What matters isn't the movement, it's the intention behind it. Are you reaching out of fear, or are you opening from a place of centered strength? Watch for how the gaze deepens over time. Does it return? Does it soften, grow more curious? That's where real attraction grows. In the repeated tension, in the unanswered questions. Don't rush to answer them. Let them live. The most powerful response is not to escalate. It's to remain unchanged. Because that steadiness, that calm eye that doesn't beg or perform, is unforgettable. In that silence, you let her wonder. You let her feel. And that's where trust begins to build. Not through effort, but through essence. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. You don't need to judge her signals or expect them to follow a perfect script. Just notice them, hold space for them, and continue becoming the man who doesn't need signs to feel worthy, but who honors them when they appear. So if her eyes find yours again and again, don't look away. And don't overthink. Just be there, fully. Because when the moment is real, your stillness will say everything she needs to hear. Final reflection. By now, maybe you're seeing the world a little differently. Slower, quieter, not in the way most people look, but in the way that sees. The way the Stoics taught us to move, not chasing signs, but noticing the truth that was always there. Because eye contact, in its purest form, isn't a tool. It's a mirror. It reflects not just what another person feels, but what you believe about yourself. The eyes have never been just organs of sight. They are instruments of soul. They betray what the voice is too afraid to speak. They hold tension, tenderness, recognition, and sometimes longing. And when you've trained yourself to look through them rather than just at them, you begin to notice all the things people never say, yet carry like heavy stones in their chest. Some gazes will draw you in like gravity. Others will tremble and look away, unsure of their own desire. And some will stare without feeling at all. That's the spectrum of human experience. It's not your job to predict, persuade, or perform. It's your role to perceive, not with judgment, but with presence. Presence is what makes you unforgettable. Not the perfect line, not a bold move, but the courage to hold a glance without fear, without assumption, without needing it to become something. When you do that, when you truly see someone without needing anything from them, you give a gift most people have never received. You show them what it means to be noticed, not evaluated. To be witnessed, not chased. That's what this entire journey has been about. Not decoding tricks, not mastering games, but returning to something ancient, something honest. The kind of knowing that lives in the stillness between heartbeats. The kind of wisdom that says, I don't need to be looked at to feel seen. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You may never get the confirmation you expect. You may never hear her say the words out loud. But if her eyes soften every time they find you, if her face changes when you enter the room, if there's a quiet electricity in the air that doesn't ask for words, then trust what you feel. Let it anchor you, not into fantasy, but into awareness. So now I'll leave you with this. Every glance you give, and every glance you receive, holds a message. Some will be loud, some will whisper, but the rare ones, the ones that shake you in silence, those are the ones you listen to. If something in this video stirred something in you, a memory, a realization, a shift, share it in the comments. Not to impress, but to connect. Your story might be the mirror someone else needs to see themselves more clearly. And if you want to walk with us on this journey toward more clarity, more calm, more conscious strength, subscribe to Stoic now. Like the video if it felt like truth, not just content. Share it if you know someone who needs to be reminded. You are not invisible, and your presence is felt. Until next time, keep noticing, because the eyes never lie, and the soul always remembers who truly saw it.